The announcement for Pokemon Legends ZA caught everyone off guard, but in addition to announcing a new game, the last few seconds hinted at the unexpected return of Mega Evolutions. Now, this gameplay mechanic, unlike many others before it, introduced a new set of designs, inspiring other artists to make their own Mega designs.
But Mega Evolutions weren't usable in the past 5 years.
So, as Megas are returning, are there any tropes in the designs that we could learn about? In other words, I want to find out what makes Mega Pokemon Mega. The story starts with not the 6th generation, but the 5th generation of Pokemon games. Pokemon often battled with the notion that all their games are the same. So in Pokemon Black and White, the 5th generation, nearly all past Pokemon were gate-kept until the main story was beaten, offering a new experience with completely new Pokemon. But many reviews still found the games to play out pretty much the same. I mean, sure, there were new formats, and there was this gem item that radically changed the competitive scene. However, the casual playthrough wasn't different enough despite having new sights, characters, and a story that many fans called the best story out of the series. Additionally, some older fans were uninterested due to how older Pokemons were locked until the end of the main game. So, in the follow-up games Black 2 and White 2, older Pokemon can be seen from the get-go, but while this generation ended up having the least number of sales, Pokemon had an opportunity in the new Nintendo 3DS to really shake up the formula, with the introduction of a new elemental type. Pokemon now using 3D models, which you can now pet with the Pokemon Ami feature. And the subject of today's video, Mega Evolutions. A select few Pokemon got their own special marble, which they can now hold in lieu of any other competitive item to achieve their Mega Evolution form, with a new design and sometimes with a related but new typing. Only one Pokemon in a party can Mega Evolve per battle, so the player would have to make a choice. Pokemon X and Y gave Mega Evolutions to 26 past Pokemon, but Charizard and Mewtwo each got 2 different Mega designs, raising the total to 28 Mega designs. And later, in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, a remake of the 3rd generation games, there were 20 more Mega Evolutions, of which only one was a Generation 6 Pokemon. So it seems that Mega Evolution was a clever way to bring back older fans by showing that some of their favorites can now achieve a new design. But what makes Mega Evolution so special in the game? Well, these new forms were simply stronger. They got 100 more points in their base stat total. What does that mean? So when it comes to base stat totals, there are 6 kinds of stats. There's health, 2 kinds of offenses with their corresponding defenses, and then speed. None of the Mega Evolutions ended up touching the health stat. Maybe the code didn't allow it at the time, because in later generations, there were mechanics that could change the health stat mid-battle. But anyways, this means that the Mega Pokemon is theoretically more capable in battles than the base form. They should look and become stronger, bulkier, and or faster depending on their new stats. So, let's start looking at the designs of these Megas. No one can say there were any rules behind making the designs other than making them related to the creature they're Mega evolving from, because at the end of the day, whatever the Pokemon company calls a Mega Pokemon is a Mega Pokemon. But that doesn't really help when you're trying to draw a Mega of your own. So I wanted to share a few pointers that I found helpful when trying to make my own designs. Starting off with the following exhibition from 2020 that I call Mega Evolutions using Microsoft Office shapes. Mega Manectric, Mega Camerupt, Mega Salamense, and Mega Diancie. Okay, sure, some of these Megas look goofy, and goofy is hit or miss with people. But I've come to appreciate this kind of design philosophy in any character design. Strong shapes. It makes the silhouette memorable and stand out from the design that they're Mega evolving off from. In a way, these Mega Evolutions are variants of the previous design. So even if they have similar features and anatomy, exaggerating their parts with larger shapes can really distinguish them. All this might be because the design team for Generation 6 were more prone to using stronger shapes, We see that especially in the way that they draw older hands and legs into more blocky and recognizable shapes. And they often use more saturated colors here than the Pokemon that they're referencing. I personally really like this. Now, maybe some of these are too goofy for my personal taste. But with some of these designs, the shape language isn't used for just a larger silhouette, but also for smaller details to offer cohesion in the design. For example, Mega Babasnow maintains these rectangular frills, and Mega Beedrill's abdomen matches the shape of their spears. So we talked about designs being led by game stats and strong shapes, but sometimes the main drive can be found with the concept. So the only rule I think the designers had in Mega designs was to keep the Mega related to whatever they're Mega evolving from. But that word, related, can be interpreted in so many different ways. Sometimes it's an amplification of the creature's identity, like if they were more like themselves in a way. Metagross's line has different parts of Metagross coming together. So what if more parts came in? Sableye has gems, so what if they not only grew, but one grew to become larger than Sableye themselves? Take what's most memorable about a design and expand on it, like having more spoons, clouds, and mouths, or having a larger shell, dress, and child. But that's not the only avenue. Sometimes one can make deeper references. Sharpedo can regularly regrow their teeth, like real-life sharks, so the Mega has a bunch of teeth, and it kind of references the Saw Shark. Gengar is supposed to be a shadow, where honestly the design itself, with no knowledge of it being the opposite of Clefairy, they don't look too much like a shadow, unlike their Mega, who is submerged in the ground so that they can slink across it. Mega Ampharos is kind of like the antithesis of Ampharos, because that line loses hair while growing up, and here, they've grown it back with a majestic mane. There's quite a few Megas out there that appear to tack on a new identity, like Swampert becomes Swole, due to how the Dex entry said that they're strong. And Absol grows wings because they warn people and fans interpreted that as being an guardian angel. You could say how some Megas can really stretch the concept if need be. While a concept could be a main driving force, the actual appearance can certainly take the wheel as well. In other words, a few of these Megas add new identities to look more dope or powerful. That's why we shouldn't work with absolutes. Again, there aren't definitive answers in what makes a Mega design or not, but you can still be inspired through the creature's identity, shape, and capabilities to make a variation of them that could possibly be more appealing. Speaking of having more variations, for the past few years I designed not all but made over 150 creatures for Kotomon, Hyper Auto Battlers, whose early access is coming very soon on Steam. It's a roguelike auto battler where every line can reach a hyper state, and every line has 2 different sets of misprints. It's a unique combination of mechanics that come together to make a very fun gameplay loop. And despite the genres the game might look like, they also elicit the gameplay of some card games where you strategize for combos and synergies amongst your Kotomons. Seriously, the people of Dino Rocket have made a fantastic game, and I implore you to check it out. To clarify, this is not the personal project that I mentioned in my other videos. I just drew many of the sprites and creatures of this game, and they've made quite a package. So check out their Steam page down in the description below, because the early access starts in a few days. Alright, so with stats, shapes, and concepts in mind, I was finally ready to make a Mega Pokemon. Not just any Pokemon, but one that fans have been wanting for years. A design that we thought would never be possible due to the discontinuation of this gimmick in the past 5 years. But with the announcement of Legends ZA, we finally have hope. If we'll ever get to see this Mega, this would be the game. The game we get to see. Mega Turtonator. You know, every Pokemon after Gen 6 never got the chance to Mega Evolve, as even though they were allowed in Gen 7, they would outright be abolished by Generation 8. I guess in a competitive and marketing level, having some of these Megas would be too much of a power creep that new Pokemon and gimmicks wouldn't get the time to shine. That's why it's so surprising that Legends ZA is bringing back this gimmick, and possibly adding even more Megas. So let's first tackle making a Mega for Generation 7's Turtonator. What would they do? Seems like they're pretty defensive, makes sense with the shell. And they're more specially offensive, which usually means they spit out stuff rather than punching their target. What's their shape? There's a big star, specifically an explosion, with spikes on their shell representing shrapnel flying off. This is what's most iconic about Turtonator, which is why they're one of the few Pokemon who show off their back facing forwards in their idle animation. This is already enough to tackle the design by now, but I also want to say how the lore confirms that the shell is supposed to be explosive, made as a mine turtle. I mean, their droppings are also explosive, but I don't think I need to cover every aspect of Turtonator in their Mega. So here's the deal. Let's take those spikes and exaggerate them. Is that too big for them to stay standing? Have them fall over, quadruped style. Their back was more important anyways. Does this change the silhouette too much? Good. Because my personal least favorite Megas are the ones that change too little. Now that the shell is facing upwards, a new concave shape can be made to elicit that upwards explosion. Explosion. When a volcano violently erupts, they can form a cinder cone where there is a crater left by the eruption. So, I made the shell cave in a little. Finally, I add some spikes to the face to make it more different looking. Now, many Pokemon change their abilities when they Mega Evolve, so instead of shell armor, why don't they get, I don't know, maybe they get weak armor. There's plenty of defensive Pokemon that could still get that ability. Alright, let's get to the finale. So, Flygon was mentioned in an interview where they were supposed to receive a Mega Evolution, but the designers didn't get to complete what they would look like. Thus, so many fans have tried to take their own shot, and frankly, it was hard for me too. But most of my difficulty came from trying to bring something new to the table, despite all the other fan-made Mega Flygon designs out there. So, what could Flygon do in the games? Well, by now, not much. This ground dragon really needs help. Please, my boy did not survive the power creep. Any big shape? Well, actually yeah. There are several kite shapes in the designs with the wings and their tail. Additionally, they got some signature red bulging transparent lenses on their eyes. Alright, anything else about their identity? So, this is my main drive for this design. Flygon is an antlion. Not really a dragonfly, but an antlion. So, bug warning, gonna show some bug images until I say they're off. In 3, 2, 1. As larvae, antlions make pit traps to trap and eat other bugs like ants. But when they later grow up as an adult, they look like dragonflies, despite being in a different taxonomical order. Okay, bugs are over. From Trapinch to Flygon, this line is a reference to the antlion, and I wonder why it was never bug type in the first place and dragon instead. Is it truly because of dragon flies? Why aren't they still bug types though? Either way, many people wanted to see a bug dragon type by now, and if we get a Mega Flygon, it might be our first bug dragon. Sticking to the kite shape, I tried doubling them and making them transparent like the lenses on the eye. I initially made the shape between the eyes also a kite, but that looked kinda like a third eye, so I opted for a different shape. The forearms are now protected with insectoid chitin, and I thought having this armor and extra wings made the design bug-like enough. And I ended up just adding more kites to the tips to give a more memorable silhouette. For the ability, I gave them tinted lens because they literally have tinted lenses. Flygon and Lurantis are the poster children for tinted lenses, but neither of them gets that ability. Why? Again, I don't think they had any set rules when making these mega designs other than needing to reference a previous creature. I just wanted to share some pointers I went through to get a design started, from looking at the role in the game, the shapes that characterize them, and finally to the creature's concept and identity. If you enjoyed this video, I'll be working on some more Legends ZA videos for the near future, so follow along! Also check out Kodomon Hyper Auto Battlers with the link in the description. A special thank you to my Patreon supporters for their direct support, and thank you for watching my video. Have an ultra mega-tastic one.